Hey everybody, it's Chris Eads, known online as Wootini, here with another Gay Gamer video podcast. I was lazy and took last week off, so we got a lot to cover, so let's just jump right in. A couple weeks ago, I saw The Boys in the Band on Broadway. Very last minute decision. It was closing on Saturday, but there were still seats left for Thursday, so I managed to slip in. It's a great show. I've always been a fan of it. I've seen the movie a bunch of times. Obviously did not see the original production because I wasn't born yet. But I'm not that old, people. So I was excited to see it performed live on stage. I would have been just as happy to pay $50 to see it off-Broadway with a cast of unknowns, and probably would have enjoyed it as much, or maybe even more, than I did paying $200 to see it on Broadway with some stars. Because I will say that as good as the show is, and it is good, there were two problems. One, the actor playing Emery, while good, rushed through his lines like he had somewhere else to be. And it was the weirdest thing because Emery, if you know the show at all, and if you don't, I'll tell you, Emery has some of the best lines in the whole play. And this actor was just not letting the jokes land. Some of the other actors would do their lines and milk it, which is, the audience is laughing, you milk it. But he would say his line, the audience would start to laugh, but he'd already be doing his next line, and it was like boom, 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 and I'm like, slow it down, work the crowd, let the jokes land, you know, whatever. But the main problem that I had with it, unfortunately, was Jim Parsons playing Michael, because, unfortunately, I can't see him as anyone but Sheldon. This just felt like Sheldon to me. He's just being, like, this bitchy queen, and the show gets very dark at the end. But this version, I was still laughing at the end, because he never got, like, it's supposed to go, Michael goes from, like, bitchy queen to, like, vicious queen. And I felt like Jim Parsons never went vicious, so it just stayed that same level of, like, bitchy, and so it never got that dark, and so it never got that uncomfortable. But that was just me. I feel like he was slightly miscast. But everyone else was really good, and I was very happy even though it was super duper expensive. This is why I don't see Broadway shows, because they're ridiculously expensive, and it's just not worth $200 usually. But I am glad that I saw it on stage because I don't know if anyone will ever do it again. So I'm like, this may be my only opportunity to see Boys in the Band live on stage. So I took it. I also went to the movies this weekend, and I saw Christopher Robin, which was exactly what I wanted it to be. There's no surprises, obviously. Like, the plot is obvious from the trailer. It's Christopher Robin grows up, becomes a workaholic, ignores his wife and daughter, and has to relearn the magic of love from Winnie the Pooh and the gang, who are reintroduced into his adult life. And it's very sweet. There's no surprises. It's, like I say, it's very predictable. Like, this is obviously the story, but it was like cinematic comfort food. It was just sweet. And it's also nice to see Haley Atwell on screen, because I love her. She's fantastic. I wish she had more to do in the movie, in fact. But I was able to use my Movie Pass on that because, as you may or may not be aware, I have been touting Movie Pass as being the most amazing thing, and it's not so amazing anymore, as I've said before. They've started restricting what movies you can see and when you can see them, and sometimes entire dates and movies are blacked out completely. And they're now getting everybody transitioned onto the 3-movie-a-month plan. You can no longer see a movie every day. Now you can just see 3 movies a month. And I feel like once they get everybody on the 3-movie-a-month plan, they'll be less restrictive in what you can see and when, because you're stuck seeing only 3 movies. But right now, they're like, you have to check the app, and it was like, I had the day off work on Friday, and I was just like, let me see if I can go see a movie today, and what they'll let me see. And I happened to check, and the local theater near me in Brooklyn was playing Christopher Robin and some indie movie that I didn't care about. So I was like, oh great, I can go see Christopher Robin. I can't go see an earlier show, but 3:30, that'll work fine. So I went, and it was fine. So we'll see just how restrictive they are in the future. I apologize for my neighbor's dogs, very loud. If you can hear that. I'm sure you can, because it's super loud. I feel like once they're limiting the number of movies you can see a month, they should free up. They shouldn't limit what you can see. But we'll see what happens going forward. I don't know how much longer I'm going to last with MoviePass, although it turns out it's been a year. So, yay for a year full of cheap movies. As for gaming, obviously it's all No Man's Sky still, but I have made some progress in Wolfenstein 2. Because I stopped bringing my Switch with me to work because the train rides were always so crowded that I could never really play Switch. Like, I did end up playing some Luminous, as I mentioned before, because that was okay to play on the train. But something like Wolfenstein, you can't have the control that you need when you're on a train being jostled and bumped around. And I couldn't always get a seat. But recently, it's been a little better, and I've brought it anyway, so there have been days when I've been able to get some progress. And in fact, there was, like, the other day, last week, where we ended up getting stuck in between stations for the longest time, and normally I would have been super annoyed, and I just want to go home, fuck your MTA. But I was killing Nazis and didn't even realize how long we were sitting there. We were sitting there for a while, but I didn't care, because I was just playing my game. It's a good distraction. So I have made some progress with that, because there are games that I want to play, such as Okami, which I have never played, as I have said before, and I want to play it, so I'm going to get the Switch version. It's only $20, but not yet, because I have to finish Wolfenstein first. And then, of course, I have been playing No Man's Sky. I'm still obsessed. And they just had another update of patches to fix glitches and whatnot, because there's always glitches. Unfortunately, it appeared that they'd fixed the base thing, so I started the base mission, and it was like, just scan around. Like, it appeared in my mission log, so I was like, okay, let me see. And it was like, well, just scan around and find a base site. So I'm like, okay, and I did it, and it was like, oh, there's a base site right over there. And it's a nice moon, so I was like, okay, fine. Thankfully, it was a good planet to build a base on. Because when I would try to build a base randomly, it wouldn't let me restore my old base. But when I found an actual base, there's no longer a building to start with, it's just a computer, which is probably why I flew over a few of them probably in the past, because I was looking for the big buildings. I didn't realize it was this tiny little computer that you couldn't find. So I restored my base, and the buildings all just reappeared, minus the upstairs. That didn't reappear for some reason, and the storage container didn't reappear. And then inside, like, there's literally nothing. Like, all the furniture, the teleporter on the wall, like, everything is just gone. And there's grass growing through the ground, which is super weird and annoying, and it looks terrible. All of the terminals were there, like the science terminal and the farming terminal and everything, construction terminal, but there were no people monitoring them. So I'm like, But when I activated one of the terminals, the GEC showed up, and I was like, oh, okay. So I activated all the terminals, and then all my people showed up. But I'm all done with the missions, so I don't care. Except for the exocraft, because I never did build an exocraft. I should do that one day, but I don't care. Like, there's no furniture, nothing's there, it's kind of horrible. Although I did build a storage container outside, and it did, in fact, still contain the stuff that was there from last time, so that's good. It's just not all coming back right away. So that's still glitchy, so I'm probably going to avoid the base building for a while. I'm not going to try to do too much with it, because it's still super glitchy. And I'm more about exploring anyway. I don't want to put down roots. I love exploring the galaxy and seeing all the different planets and creatures and things. So, in fact, I love exploring so much that I bought myself a new ship. Yes, I traded in old Red Wing, and I now have the Prophecy of Frost, which is a weird name, but I kind of love it, so I'm keeping it. It's an explorer ship, so it has better distance. It can go further. It's also more maneuverable than my old hauler, though the shields are lower. But it does do better. I did actually get into a firefight with some pirate ships, and I not only survived, but triumphed, so yay for me. So maybe now I'm gonna, like, you know, fight back, because I can maneuver better. But the better thing is that it came with an upgrade to the thrusters called, like, efficient thrusters, and it's only a level B, so I'm hoping there's an A or an S that I can upgrade to at some point, because it now uses, instead of taking off and using 25% of your fuel, it only uses 10% of your fuel. So you can refuel less frequently, which is a godsend in this game, where you're constantly having to refuel everything. But I'm super, super into No Man's Sky again, and it's obsessive. And I keep taking ridiculous numbers of pictures, and I'm playing with the filters and the lighting and everything, and it's just, it's too much. Too much fun. But then, the other thing I wanted to talk about this week, it was the 4th annual FlameCon comic book convention, the LGBT comic convention created by Geeks Out. This was the 4th annual one, and oh my god, it just continues to grow. 4 years ago, it was a little Kickstarter thing with like a handful of tables and a few panels held at the Grand Prospect Hall here in Brooklyn, and there was no air conditioning, it was terrible. Then the next 2 years, it was held at the Brooklyn Marriott, which made it feel more like an actual convention, because it was in a hotel, and you had the big hall, and you had the little meeting rooms for the panels and such. And it kept growing and growing. And then this year, it was held at the Sheraton Times Square, even though it's up on 53rd Street. Just saying, it's not Times Square up on 53rd Street. The Sheraton in New York City. So it's in Manhattan, huge, huge show floor, massive amounts of tables, 2 floors. There was an upstairs with more panel rooms, and it was huge. It's growing every year. It's absolutely fantastic, although one of the drawbacks is that because it's so big now and they have the bigger space, they sell more tickets, which means it's a lot more crowded. Like, I kept trying to tell my husband, like, last year and this year even, I was like, you should come to FlameCon. It's not like New York Comic Con. It's not super crowded and annoying. It's much better. And that would have been a lie if he had come with me on Saturday, because it was so crowded. Like, I tried to go on the show floor and look around, and I got into an aisle, and the aisles were so narrow. They were like 2 people wide. It wasn't like you could have people looking on either side and people could still move. That was it. And I suddenly found myself, everybody stopped moving, and I was like, and I got like super claustrophobic, and I was like, I have to get out of here. Luckily there was a space between 2 tables, and I was able to move into the other aisle. And then I ran into a friend of mine. I was like, oh, thank you. Let me talk to you for a minute and not be in the crush of humanity. Sunday was much better. It's less crowded. But then, of course, by Sunday, everything is sold out, and they've sold a lot of their merch. So, but it's a great show. Everybody is so nice. It's a nice experience, because even when it's crowded and you're bumping into people, everyone's always saying, excuse me, I'm sorry, pardon me, and it's just, everyone is so nice. And that's just not the experience that you have at most conventions. So it's kind of lovely. It's very refreshing. There was lots of great cosplay. I want to mention the cosplay. There was a contest, and there were some amazing outfits. I was really upset that my friend Christian did not place at all. He created, I think he called it Wonder Spartan, and it was an amazing costume that he frickin' made from scratch, except for the sword, he said. Everything else he made. So good. And he didn't even get to be runner-up. And I was like, what the hell, man? So I'm like, okay. To be fair, the winner of the costume contest was Wakandan Storm, and that was also a really lovely costume. That was really well done. But Christian was robbed. And I walked around on Saturday, and I bought this wonderful t-shirt, which I just thought was lovely. The artist screen printed them himself, and a portion of the proceeds goes to the Cyndi Lauper True Colors Fund, which I thought was lovely. So I was like, I would have bought it anyway, but the charity is a bonus. And then I also bought a print of Kevin Keller done in the classic Archie style, like a retro comic book cover, from artist Dan Parent, for my husband, who's a big Archie fan. And then there was also this stunning, the artist's name is Trungles, and he has stunning artwork, but this one Wonder Woman print, just gorgeous. I had to have it. I bought a small one because I didn't want to buy the bigger one, and now I kind of regret not buying the bigger one, but whatever. And I thought, oh, I'm good. It's all the money I'm going to spend. I was wrong. I went back on Sunday, and I spent even more. I bought this lovely Miyazaki character pencil case, because I need a new pencil case for my art supplies and stuff. And it was, somebody had one, and I was like, oh my god, where did you get that? That's so awesome. And he was like, oh, over there somewhere. And I'm like, that's not really helpful at a convention to say, like, over there. But I did find it, so that was awesome. I also got this super cute KK Summer Jams mix. It's a little fan comic with the Animal Crossing characters. And that's super cute, because I love anything Animal Crossing. There was also this stunning art print, Japanese watercolor style art print of this tiger that I was walking past this booth and I was like, oh my god, that's stunning. I looked through the rest of the portfolio, but I just kept coming back to that one and I was like, I have to own that. That's just gorgeous. And I forget the artist's name. I want to say Tamika Tam, maybe? Sorry. I'll put it right here. And then I also stopped by Chad Sell's table because my friend had recommended this book called The Cardboard Kingdom, which is a graphic novel about these little kids who have backyard fun, and it's written by a bunch of different people and illustrated by Chad Sell, and it's like the cutest thing ever. I have not yet read it, but my friend said it was really good, so I'm risking the money. And then I also bought, I couldn't decide, so I bought all of them. He also does, Chad Sell doing his drag race illustrations, so I bought one each of all of his drag race books with all of his beautiful illustrations of the drag race contestants, and I spent a little too much money. But that's what happens at conventions. You spend too much money. And they all take cards, which is the really big problem. So, FlameCon was amazing. I don't know if they're planning on expanding it to a West Coast version of FlameCon. That would be kind of awesome. I feel like that's like the next step, to do like FlameCon West. Maybe they'll do that next year. I don't know. That would be super awesome. I know there's a lot of people who'd love to do it. But if you are in the New York City area, next summer, definitely come to FlameCon, because it's just super fun. It's like one of the best comic conventions you can go to. And that's all there is to say about that. So I have rambled on for far too long this week. I'm sorry. I promise I will not keep taking weeks off, because that then makes every episode longer, and who wants to sit here and listen to me talk for 20 minutes? If I do it every week, it's only 10 every week. So, come back again next time, and I'll try to keep it shorter. Bye!